So, how
Absolutely.
do you help business owners get to that point where they realize, no, I'm not the catalyst to productivity in my business. I can actually be the inhibitor to productivity in my business.
It takes baby steps a little bit, right? And it takes trust for the client I'm working with to trust me. It's funny, I have this one client that I work with, and it's a husband and wife team, and they have about 5 employees, and they hired me to help them do this. And then it was probably like a month, 2 or 3, as I was starting to talk about transitioning him like kind of away a little bit and just like releasing some of his work, he started getting very nervous. And he called me up and basically fired me. Okay. He said to me, he said, look, I appreciate everything you're saying, but this isn't going to work. And he said, I really don't have the resources to pay you what you're asking. And I was like, okay, it's no problem at all. I said, I totally understand. I said, what I'll do is I'll just write down some things you should be doing. So I sent them like, a couple pages. I said, look, to get your business to the next level, this is where we left off and this is what you should do. So it was about 2 or 3 days later, his wife called me and asked me a question. And I said, well, I can't do that anymore because your husband fired me. And she goes, he did what? And she couldn't believe it. And she says, I will talk to him. And as of right now, you are reinstated. And it was so funny. I was laughing about it because talk about lack of communication between spouses. They live in the same house. 3 days had gone by. He never mentioned to her that he fired me. So anyway, now I'm back working for them again. And now fast forward, we're about probably 12 months in, and we've doubled his revenue twice. Okay, so we took what he was making, and our first goal was to double that amount of revenue. And he didn't believe it was possible, right? That's one of the reasons he fired me, but we did it. And then from that point, we've now doubled again. And we just had this celebration. It was about a month ago that they reached that target, and they were all excited. And I said, look, this is great. I said, I'm so happy, but realize we still have to double again, because when I look at the potential of your business, like this is where it really should be. And it was funny, he looked at me with that skepticism again, and it's so funny how people could doubt what's really possible. And I said, look, I said, I know to you it seems like this big jump. I go, but think back 12 months ago when I first said we were going to double your business. It was a big jump, but we did it. And then we doubled again. I go, so now I'm just asking you to do what you've already done twice for me. I said, so we've already done this. This is easy. I said, we're just going to do it again over the next, I said, by the end of this year, by the end of 2023, this is where we're going to be. I said, and trust me, I said, I know your industry. I know the potential of your business, and we're going to do it without even hiring any additional staff right now. I said, we have enough staff to double production where we are right now. And he just gets nervous when I say that, but we every month we hit record months, record months, record months. And so now they're very happy. Obviously, they didn't fire me and they didn't stay with that decision. But it's just a process that you have to walk the owner through. And there has to be a level of trust between the business owner and myself in saying, look, just give it a couple of months and I promise you this is what's going to happen. And I can say that from experience, because I've helped hundreds of businesses in so many different countries and so many different industries, and the principles work. They don't change from business to business. Yeah, I have to tailor them to meet the specific industry we're dealing with, but they're business principles, and they apply.